You know, some years are just numbers on a calendar, but others, they're total game changers. And 1066, now that is one of those years. It's a date that didn't just alter England, it fundamentally remade it, kicking off a chain reaction that would define a nation forever. So how did one year change so much?
And look, this isn't just some dusty old story about swords and shields. This is about how, on a single, fateful autumn day, the entire destiny of England was decided at the Battle of Hastings. This is the moment the Anglo-Saxon world came to a sudden end, and a brand new, Norman England was forged in fire.
All right, so where does a story this big even begin? Well, like so many massive conflicts throughout history, it all kicks off with a crisis of succession.
At the very heart of this whole thing was a massive power vacuum. King Edward dies, and he leaves no clear heir. Think about it. The top job in England is suddenly open. And for the most powerful, ambitious men in Northern Europe, that was like a dinner bell. The crown was officially up for grabs, and the stage was set for a fight.
So out of this chaos, three major players step into the ring. Each one of them was absolutely convinced that the English throne belonged to him. And this wasn't just some local spat. Oh no, this was about to get big.
Let's meet our contenders, shall we? First, you've got Harald Godwinson. He's the insider, the home team favorite. He was the most powerful nobleman in England, and the other English lords wasted no time in crowning him king. Then, across the channel, you have William, Duke of Normandy. He was furious. He claimed that the old king had promised the throne to him, and that Harold had even sworn an oath to back him up. So he felt completely double-crossed and started building an invasion fleet. And finally, coming from the north, you have Harald Hardrada, the king of Norway. This guy was a terrifying Viking warrior, the last of a dying breed, and he had his own claim based on some old treaties. So bottom line, three incredibly powerful men, all with what they believed was a legitimate claim, and not a single one of them was going to back down. You can just feel the storm brewing, can't you?
So while Harald Godwinson is trying to settle in on the throne in England, you've got William preparing his invasion in the south, and Harald Hardrada gathering his Viking longships in the north. England was basically caught in a giant pincer move, bracing for a war on two fronts.
So let's put ourselves in King Harold's shoes for a second. Can you even imagine the pressure? You just got the crown, and your first order of business is to defend your brand new kingdom from not one but two separate battle-hardened armies coming at you from different directions at the same time.
And the sequence of events here is just insane. First, Hardrada's Vikings land in the north. Harold force marches his army up there, and against the odds, wins a huge, stunning victory at the Battle of Stamford Bridge. A massive win. But, and this is a huge but, there was literally zero time to celebrate. While he was up north fighting the Vikings, the winds changed and William's Norman fleet landed on the south coast. The first invasion was crushed, but the second one had just begun.
I really want you to stop and think about this number for a second. 250 miles. After fighting a bloody, exhausting battle against thousands of Vikings, Harold's army, what was left of it, had to turn right around and force march all the way south to face a fresh, rested Norman army. The physical and mental toll, it's almost unimaginable.
And all of this incredible, chaotic series of events, it all leads to one final epic showdown. The climax of 1066, the moment where the fate of the entire nation hangs in the balance.
October 14, 1066. This is it. This is the day. Near a town called Hastings, Harold's completely worn-out Anglo-Saxons dig in on a hilltop, and down below, William's Normans get ready to attack. Everything, and I mean everything, comes down to what happens next.
And from a military perspective, this battle was a classic clash of styles. You had the English up on the high ground with their famous shield wall. Think of it as a human fortress, a wall of wood and steel that was almost impossible to break. And then you had the Normans, who were much more flexible. They had archers, infantry, and their ace in the hole, heavily armored knights on horseback. It was basically the immovable object versus the unstoppable force.
For hours, that English shield wall was unbreakable. The Norman knights charged and they bounced right off, again and again. It looked like Harold might just pull it off. But then, the turning point. William pulls off a brilliant and super risky tactic, the feigned retreat. Some of his troops pretend to turn and run, and some of the English soldiers, they see this, they smell victory, and they make a fatal mistake. They break formation and chase them down the hill. That was it. The discipline was gone. The wall crumbled.
creating gaps. And in the chaos that follows, King Harald is killed. The story goes, he took an arrow right in the eye.
And with that, it was over. Just like that. When your king dies right there on the battlefield, in front of everyone, morale just evaporates. The English army, now leaderless and shattered, just fell apart. By nightfall, William, the Duke of Normandy, was the victor.
But winning the battle is one thing. Actually conquering and holding on to an entire country, that's a whole different ballgame. William's victory at Hastings wasn't the end of the story. It was just the beginning of a total top-to-bottom transformation of England.
So how did he do it? Well, William launched this absolutely incredible project called the Doomsday Book. You have to understand, this wasn't just a simple census. This was a medieval version of big data, a full-scale audit of his new kingdom that recorded who owned what, where, right down to the last cow and pig. It was a masterpiece of bureaucracy, really, all designed to centralize power, control the land, and make sure everyone paid their taxes. This is how the Normans cemented their grip on every single part of England.
And the changes that followed were, well, they were total. The Old English ruling class? Gone. Replaced by a new French-speaking Norman elite. A whole new system, feudalism, was rolled out across the country. French became the language of power, of the court, of government. England's entire focus shifted away from its old Viking connections and towards mainland Europe. The law, the government, everything was transformed.
But maybe the most incredible, long-lasting legacy is the one you and I are using right this second, our language. For centuries, French was the language of the powerful. Naturally, it started to mix with the Old English that everyone else was speaking. And that's why today, thousands of words in modern English, words about law, government, cooking, art, you name it, they all come from French. The Norman Conquest is literally baked into the words we speak every single day.
So when you look back, it's clear that one battle on one day, decided by one crucial moment, really did change everything. It just leaves you with this incredible what if, doesn't it? What if that English shield wall had just held out a little longer? What if that arrow had missed? Just think about how different England, and maybe even the whole world, would look today.